Now that we're recording that. All right, you're good to go.
Okay, our live stream's up and running, so we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. We want to thank everybody for attending the Board of Education meeting. We have a lot of fun things to talk about today. Let's go ahead and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I saw it.
And our roll call, please. Member Blunt.
Present.
Member Frank. Here. Member Myers.
Yeah.
Member McIntyre.
Here.
Member Rosenthal.
Yeah.
Member Stein. Here. And moving over the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion. Second.
Motion by John, seconded by Mr. Highland. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. Okay, we're on to public comments. So we do have one here. Patty, do you have any others, or else I can go ahead and so we're just gonna go ahead and call up Stephanie Hyde, and you are front and center.
Go up here.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
great.
Works for me. So hi, my name is Stephanie Hyde, and I am the Galena High School class of 2017 valedictorian. And I typically do not introduce myself with that title, but I think tonight it is of the utmost importance. I believe that the concept of the Latin honor system is a good concept. Any way we can honor more students and give them another accolade to put on their resume is a great idea. Whether their goals be to go to college, to go to the workforce, anything we can do to help them in their years after Galena High School is a great idea. However, I still encourage the district to honor valedictorian and salutatorian. The graduation speaking rights of the valedictorian and the salutatorian should not be up for debate. Mrs. Murphy alluded that these students are taking easy courses to aid them in earning this distinction. Referring to any GHS course offering as easy is problematic in and of itself because it's devaluing the work of our teachers. However, I think any of us could objectively look at the transcripts of former valedictorians and salutatorians and agree that they were in no way taking the easy route to earn said distinction. If we historically look at valedictorians and salutatorians over the years, they've all been graduating with over a 4.0 GPA. The only way to earn over a 4.0 GPA is through taking advanced placement courses, and I can assure you, they're not easy. This comment has also devalued and dismantled the hard work of top 10 students in recent history. I would also like to address Board Member McIntyre. You stated that the valedictorian and salutatorian have not always been the best public speakers, and you've heard some pretty bad speeches over the year. I say this with all the respect in the world, but you need to publicly apologize for your comment. It was incredibly inappropriate to say from your position of power within the school district and community. Whether it was your intent or not, you slandered every prior salutatorian and valedictorian. Each student who stood at the podium in a crowded and sweaty GHS gym has earned that moment at the microphone, whether you deem them a good public speaker or not. And furthermore, I urge you all to inquire the process that speakers go through before graduation day. I can assure you it is not the first time the speech has been heard or saw by faculty members or Mrs. Murphy. I will propose this solution. Do a modified Latin honor system. Honor more students based on the tiers of GPA, 3.5, 3.75, etc. I think that's a fantastic idea. However, honor the valedictorian and the salutatorian of the class by letting them speak at graduation. I would propose adding an additional student speaker. This, you could go through the process of having them apply, and then they could be selected based on a number of criteria, like volunteer work and extracurricular involvement. I came here tonight to advocate for the future valedictorians and salutatorians of Galena High School. It would be irresponsible of us to make the broad assumption that all future valedictorians and salutatorians would not like to speak at graduation. It is really easy for any of us to say it's just high school. However, when that student walks across the stage at 18 years old, 22% of their life has been spent working towards that moment. It is entirely irresponsible for us as a school district to devalue the work that they have put in and strip them of this honor. Thank you.
Pretty good.
We only have the one card for public comment, so that will conclude this portion. So now we're gonna move on to the old business part. We are gonna appoint a new board member to fill the vacant board seat for the remainder of the unexpired term until April of 2023. So first of all, we need a motion to appoint Alan Minter as a new board member to fill the vacant board seat for the remainder of the unexpired term until April of 2023.
I moved it down.
In a second,
I got a second on that.
the motion by Mike Hyland and seconded by John, and then we'll do a roll call vote for that. Okay.
Member Ireland?
Yes.
Member Rosenthal?
Yes.
Member McIntyre?
Yes.
Member Stodden?
Yes.
Member Frank?
Yes.
Member Blunt?
Yes.
Welcome, Al.
Welcome.
More.
Thank you.
And,
Jack's in the mail.
So now you get to do the formal part and read your oath of office. Do we have to-
Yep. Either that one, Al, or I have a.
I'll just get my glasses.
This one's better.
Okay. Do I need to stand or anything?
You can do it right there.
I, Alan Minter, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Galena School District, in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois, to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting. I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive methods. Channels, excuse me. As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Galena School District. I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement in all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students in our community schools to advance the vision for Galena School District. And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
Thank you, sir.
Great, thanks, Al. And we're gonna move along to our student and staff recognition awards. We're gonna go ahead and turn the awards over, and I think the administration will handle that
Yep.
part of it.
Yep. So we're going to start with, I know we've got a lot of people here, but we're going to start with these fourth grade spelling bee winners. Joe? Thank you.
Good evening. This year, our fourth grade spelling bee was handled a little bit differently due to the COVID guidelines. So we had a spelling bee in actually each of our 3 fourth grade classes. So I'd like to recognize our winners of our fourth grade spelling bee this year. In Mrs. Gempler's class, 3rd place, Ariana Murphy.
You can come on up.
If she's here, when I call your name, come on up. Come on up, Ariana.
Yeah, you're next.
Second place is Mrs. Gempler's class, Riley Gutzman.
I got that. Good job, Riley.
In first place in Mrs. Gensler's class, Nolan Kaiser.
Who's got it?
In Mrs. Lang's fourth grade class, third place, McKenna Watson, and she was not able to be here with us tonight. Second place, Eli Schumacher.
We had an order line.
You don't have to run.
I'm ready.
Over here.
No.
And first place in Mrs. Lang's class, Aiden Kirk.
Good job, Aiden.
And in Mr. Burkholz's class, third place, Cora Malone. Second place, Leslie Lynn. In first place, Giovanni Luna Rivera.
Here's Joe.
Here we go, Jill, here's your certificate. Congratulations.
Congratulations, you guys.
Great job, guys.
Good job.
Scooch in here.
Good in there for a picture?
Come on over
Great.
here, yeah. Come on up here, Aiden. Very good. Face Mrs. Martinez. Yep. Come on with your eyes. There we go. Very nice.
Good job, kiddo.
Congratulations. You can go.
Good job, guys.
Thank you. Each year, the Illinois Principals Association selects student leaders in their building. This year's high school recipients of the Student Leadership Award are Maggie Handel, who is out playing soccer at this time, and
Yikes.
Nicole Johnson. These two young ladies have exhibited achievement, personal character, and leadership while attending the Galena High School. So come on up, Nicole. Your picture.
So for the Illinois Principal Association, we recognize students as they are leaving each individual building. So that's why in our district, we have 3. It's my pleasure to introduce our 8th grade Leadership Award winners. So our nominations come from our teachers. Our 8th grade teachers meet their team meeting, talk with me. I have no input because you know what? I full-heartedly agree with their recommendations they had today. So from the 8th grade, we'd like to recognize our future leaders of Braden Kevern and Sarah Hebello.
Stage this better.
This is the best it gets. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
And at the Galena Primary School, the Illinois Principal Association Leadership Award goes to 2 4th grade students, and these students are voted on by their peers based on their leadership, friendship, responsibility, and other character traits. So our 2 Leadership Award winners are Chloe Kaiser and Giovanni Luna Rivera.
Picture?
All right, and I have the pleasure of publicly announcing at the board meeting our Illinois Principals Association Certified Support Personnel Leadership Award. This is part of the Illinois Principals Association's recognized leadership in the regions around the state. This is our region is 5 different counties in Northwest Illinois. That award winner is Miss Heidi O'Shea.
All of it, all of it. No, not in the back of my head.
Good job. In the May board meeting, we will also be recognizing the people that put forth 15 years of service to the board. We had 6 this year. I know that some of them could not be here tonight, but I still want to publicly recognize them. If you're here, please come up. We have Kim Bauer. We have Amy Hazy. I know it's her birthday today, so I know that she's at her birthday party and not here. I can't imagine why. Jill Mulite. Jill Wise couldn't be here, and nor could Jackie Werner, but I wanted to recognize them here today. We also have 3 retirees that we want to recognize. Teresa Petrata, she couldn't be here either, so I apologize for that. We also have 3 retirees this year with almost 19 years of service to the Galena School District. Mrs. Kathy Gerlich. We will make you give a speech, I promise. With 22 years of service to the Galena School District, Mrs. Diane Frank. And 29 years of service to the Galena School District, will be retiring August 31st, is Karen Marsden. Yep. Student, staff, thank you so much. Yeah, please don't feel obligated to stay. You're more than welcome to stay for the board meeting, but you don't have to.
Administrators, do you know who's starting?
Oh, we up to that one? All right.
I can start. Okay, so
I'm gonna go first and I'll pass off to Jill.
Right.
Yep.
So we're gonna move on to administrative and AD reports, and our superintendent would like to go first. So we're gonna kick it over.
So I just wanted to give a heads up at, this time of the year is not actually unlike last school year, in which you don't really know what the fall is going to look like. Even now, it was a little more tumultuous this school year, but really the planning process is the same. So we have a transition team that's put together with multiple different roles and buildings that are represented on it. And basically the general idea is to do a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, et cetera, because we don't know, for example, in August, what quarantines are going to look like, what mask wearing is going to look like, what all the different variables that we dealt with this year. It's really the reopening as we did this year will look different, but it's really the same process. Okay. So, and it hinges on the requirement or the ability of remote learners. And tomorrow at the Illinois State Board of Education, their board meeting, the state superintendent is going to recommend that that all schools return to in-person learning with very few exceptions. So that means or when the governor declaration ends, remote learning is essentially over, except in the cases where the vaccine is not, the age groups that the vaccine is not available and the kid is under quarantine. Okay, so what's being presented to the State Board of Education is remote learning, aside from cases of quarantine, is essentially over. Okay, so we'll be watching closely tomorrow on what that really looks like, but that really helps us aid our planning for the fall. So that's what we're looking at for reopening as of right now. We also had we had a meeting yesterday with the representative that's kind of in the know with the Federal Communications Commission. They have released in the next 2 weeks. There's going to be an announcement that that devices for students can be funded up to $400 per device. Now that would cover the cost of Chromebooks. That is not based on low-income enrollment. That's not based on anything but the current enrollment. So in a later presentation, I'm going to be talking about the ESSER II funding and the allocation of the federal stimulus money. That has to change because it would be foolish for us to give up this one-time purchase of the technology through a different grant, and if we can't put it into this FCC one. So the only bad news in all of this is that it's probably going to be another 2 months before we can actually get it approved and order, and there likely will be a backlog. And the only way to get around it is to order early, which takes you out of the running for that FCC money. So we're not going to pass up on between $300,000 and $350,000 for the district to fund devices. So we're likely going to kind of reallocate that money into the FCC grant and out of the ESSER II grant, if that makes sense. So I talk about ESSER II. It's already an outdated presentation because of what happened yesterday. So that's I just wanted to mention that for the board as of right now. So Jill, you want to hit your administrative report?
Just a few highlights from this month. Our reading curriculum, the K-8 ELA curriculum committee continues to meet on a regular basis. We have narrowed down our favorites of all the choices to about 3 at this time, and at our next meeting we will be actually putting our hands on some copies of those curriculum materials and go on from there. So that is going well. Math visit, we have River Ridge, some representatives from River Ridge coming to our school on Thursday to meet with some of our teachers because they are looking at adopting a new math curriculum. And Bridges is one of their top 2 choices. So they're going to come take a look at our program and talk to our teachers about our Bridges and mathematics program. And then I have listed the May field trips there for you. And we just wrapped up our data meetings yesterday. So we are pulling all of that together and we can include that in a report next.
Mr. So?
Follow up from what Mr. Vincent said, I poll on our teachers as far as this school year, some positive takeaways through the course of the year. There's lots of things that we obviously don't want to have to relive again in future school years, but just some things and modifications that we've adapted to this year that are good takeaways that we can use in future years, and getting some good input from the teachers to use when we start planning even more for the 21-22 school year. And we're looking forward to also some fun activities the last 8 days that we have. We're looking forward to our 4th graders coming up on Friday for a little orientation to the middle school. They'll come up here. They'll meet me first, so I'll try not to scare them away. They'll have lunch up here with the 5th graders, meet the 5th grade teachers, get a quick little tour, and then hopefully dispel any fears that they may have coming up to a new building, so that transition comes smoother. And we'll have another 5th grade orientation in the fall where it's just them and parents to be able to come in as well. We haven't set that date or that time yet. And the other thing, just to add that, we get a lot of questions about, with the latest CDC announcements, that we're still planning on going through masks in every protective order that we can. We have had quite a few of our remote students come back to in-person learning. Some of them were reluctant, some of them were hesitant, so we're still trying to enforce the mask, the distancing, still trying to get outside whenever we possibly can as well too.
Ms. Murphy?
Last Thursday, Mrs. Duffy and I handed out more than $130,000 in scholarship money to our seniors. I must say that it's probably one of the most exciting days of the year to be able to award that money to the seniors. We want to give a special thanks to the First Community Bank. They gave $200 to every single senior. And when the seniors heard that, the smiles on their faces were just, it was just priceless. So we want to give a special thanks to the First Community Bank for giving those students, all of the seniors, $200. Just a couple of end of the year items. We have a little activity or ceremony going on this Sunday. It's a graduation of the class of 2021. It's at 2:00 in the afternoon. So if you are still wanting to attend, please let me know so I have a chair available for you on the stage. Our practice is on Friday at 1:00, and then we're going to, after rehearsal work, we are going to do the senior walk through the schools. With the different time change, it's going to be a fast one, so we'll see how it works out. But we are going to do it, rain or shine. I'm going to get a bus available, so if we need a bus, we can drive. Probably between buildings. And then also next week are our underclass exams, next Thursday and Friday, and then the last day of school is the 28th. So things are going forward. Kids are hunkering down, but they're really excited. You can kind of feel it in the building right now. So it's time.
All right, thank you. Mr. Noble?
So anyone, I'll just go brief review of my update. Spring sports, it's hard to believe that next week is the last week of regular season for all of our spring sports. It's been a fairly uneventful spring, weirdly enough. Today was the first day we had to cancel any games because of the weather. That felt strange, but I gave an update on numbers for our spring sports, across the 5 different programs that we run, and our numbers continue to be strong. Summer activities, we've been planning those, working with coaches to implement our summer strength and conditioning program, as well as our open gyms and tournaments, and with very few exceptions, those will be fairly normal. Returning to a pretty regular summer. But it started just a little bit later because the spring sports are going just a little bit later. Other than that, some recognitions that you guys can read over for our volleyball and football team, and then our higher competitors in the week.
Does anybody have any questions for any of the administrator reports or Mr. Noble? Okay, then we'll just keep moving along on our agenda. Next up, we have a presentation by Gallagher Insurance regarding the possibility of joining Illinois Scholastic Cooperative.
Sure. Yep. So I asked Mike Parrott and Wendy Sandoval to come from Gallagher Insurance. Gallagher's our insurance broker for our health insurance. There is right now we get a quote from Blue Cross Blue Shield and have some competitive quotes from that Wendy and Mike put together. There is another option that maintains the same level of coverage in our insurance, but it has the ability to kind of insulate us against any spikes in premiums that we see from year to year. So this is a time of year that I would bring to you guys the health insurance renewal rates. And that's purely driven by the number of claims and things like that. Now we're small enough that one or 2 high claims in the year would really see a spike in the premium. It's not unheard of to see raises of premiums of 15 to 20%. When some districts see like a calamity happen, you know, or a terrible diagnosis or a terrible accident or things like that. So joining a insurance cooperative is one of the options with a number of other schools that are in the Northwest region. They had talked about it in our insurance committee, our district insurance committee that meets frequently, about quarterly throughout the year, and it was supported by that. In fact, it was kind of turned over to to me to make that call, because it really doesn't affect coverage or prescription costs or anything like that the people in that room really care about. It's more about it's really about the insurance premiums. So in the cost from year over year. So I asked Wendy and Mike to come here and just give us an overview of the benefits and as we're weighing the decision to dive into a co-op. And you've got the presentation that's on your iPads now. I'll gladly turn on the TV and display it if you need it, but you do have what they're going through. So it's ready.
I'm ready. Thanks for the opportunity and work with the district for a number of years. Mike Parrott, my name's here. We just want to touch on, Wendy, just do a quick snapshot of your standalone renewal. You're in a standalone position right now with Blue Cross, and as I think Tim points out very accurately, the volatility of being alone at 80-some lives is sometimes tough, and you have those couple of spikes. So let her touch on that, and I'll go into a little detail in the co-op, and please interrupt us with any questions you might have.
Perfect, thank you, Mike. Good evening, my name is Wendy Sandoval. I am a senior benefit consultant with Gallagher. I lead the customer service team that services the district with regards to health insurance and the other employee benefits. Here tonight mainly to discuss our Illinois Scholastic Cooperative, the health insurance option for the district. Just wanted to quickly revisit, as Mr. Vincent alluded to, the standalone Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal. The district currently maintains a health insurance program. There are actually 2 plans in place through Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois that renews each year on July 1st. Blue Cross did come in this year favorable based on what we've seen in the marketplace. We have about a 5% increase in the renewal rate for 7121. Just a quick overview of those renewal components. For a group of the district size, Blue Cross looks at medical trend in what they refer to as their mid-market, demographic adjustment, and then change in risk within the district specifically. So to make up that 5%, Blue Cross looked at a trend calculation of about 3 3/4%. They gave the district a demographic adjustment of about negative 0.5%. And a very favorable change in risk number of about 1.7%. So we looked at the Illinois Scholastic Cooperative as an option for the district as a cost containment strategy in the past. In past years, not necessarily have favorable or competitive results to the Blue Cross Blue Shield standalone renewal. This year, as Mike's going to explain, that came in a little bit different. We have some favorable numbers from our Illinois Scholastic Cooperative, which does include several of your neighbors. So the West Carroll School District, Skills Mound, a handful of your neighbors here in the Northwest region.
Thanks, buddy. And just to touch on the cooperative, the value piece of the cooperative, you probably in other relationships with other districts when you start looking at economies of scale. And what we're trying to do is carve off administrative costs. And when you get into a consortium, the ISC started back in 2016 in September with 7 districts. We're now up to 13 districts. We're just methodically growing. And when Wendy talked about favorable this year, you've applied a couple other times as far back as when Mr. Hurt was here. And this sounds funny, but you were a good date at the time. Your claims basket, when they look at evaluating you, the co-op is a little bit leery of taking on a lot of risk exposure, and that's a protection for every member of that consortium. So this year, your numbers look good, you'd be a good fit, and I think overall, our underwriter is giving you a thumbs up if you do choose that you want to come this direction. There's absolutely no pressure to come in. If you find that it's attractive, it's something you want to do. We've been managing the standalone Blue Cross product for years, and that's worked very well. One thing I'll point out before we get into a couple of slides, the people that came into this co-op back in 2016, the 7th district, they were all Blue Cross at the time. That was a big deal for their employees. When you marry Blue, you don't usually divorce them. People really like that way that works. So the integrity of keeping Blue Cross was critical. Second thing is some consortiums or co-ops force you to take a a la carte menu of plans, which is a disruptor at the member level because they might lose a benefit. Ours lets you port your plan right in with no benefit changes. So those two key components as we built the consortium were pretty important. Tim, you could probably scroll down to
Sure.
the last cooperative, next page. This is right there. Self-funded program. And I guess I should touch on self-funded. You're fully insured right now. You have a pooled risk structure in a consortium or co-op. So it is self-funded. It operates as a fully insured product, but it actually is self-funded, which means all the districts put their money into a pooled exposure. And then they get a flat premium rate per month. And I think on one of the slides we'll do in just a minute, I'll show you those actual premium equivalents that you have on the screen. But by doing that, you share that risk exposure, and it really works well to mitigate those spikes or the volatility that I think we've all seen over the last number of years. So if you look at this, risk sharing for large claimants, that's key. Greater effectiveness, cost savings, initiates wellness and disease management. And we've got a bunch of added value programs because when you're a smaller Blue Cross subscriber member, you don't get access to all the bells and whistles and programs. But when you get to a consortium, and the consortium we have in place is now up to about 2,000 lives, that makes a big difference in the eyes of Blue Cross, and they treat you a little differently in that market. I think we go down one, Tim. One thing, it's very similar. When you get into a self-funded environment, the district takes on a certain amount of risk on the low end, and then we purchase catastrophic coverage, or what we call stop loss, where you have a cap or an umbrella coverage that caps your risk exposure. So again, you are protected by the numbers, then you're protected by an insurance carrier operating in the background, which creates a cap on the exposure. So that's how the claims management gets taken care of under the self-funded arrangement. The renewal methodology phase is very small. Hopefully you can see it on your screen better than on my notes here. But one of the things that we have a large suburban co-op, also called the EBC co-op, which has 200 school districts. The ISC formed because they did not want to be part of the Collier County. There's a whole different culture, I think, in the rural marketplace than there are maybe in the Collier counties. So they formed this consortium in 2016 because they wanted to remain consistent with that culture in the rural market. But we all use this type of methodology. And what we do in order to, again, soften those spikes or soften those bad claims years is the entire co-op is rated as one large body at the end of the year. So you're using all the claims. So if one district's performing poorly, another's better, it's going to soften that curve. The unique part about some of our co-ops is you have a chance to outperform the co-op average. And in that case, if you're doing better than the co-op loss ratio, you can have up to a 5% reduction from that global renewal that you create. So you can actually have a success story if your people are doing well. If you're doing horribly, there is a cap at the other side as well. There's a 5% margin on either side. This year, the ISC was about 3.1 was their base renewal. So some districts were negative this year. The worst case would be 3.1 plus 5, or 8.1 was that worst case scenario. There have been some districts who have very much taken advantage of that cap on the top end. I know that last year we were very close to 12 when we were looking at this. So it really does have a nice softening of the curve, if you will, over time. And philosophically, I don't know, Tim, did you get a chance to talk to a couple of our
An email kind of describing, that's all.
They believe in this concept of shared risk. And that's one of the things as a board you understand that some of your money, if you have a great year, may end up helping offset someone over here who's not having as great a year. So I always like to point that out because some districts don't want to get in that type of situation. But by the same token, if your turn at the trough comes, it's awfully nice to have that insulation with those other members. So we really like that concept, and having a chance to win really kind of makes people feel really good about maybe doing some internal programs and things that might help mitigate their costs on the local level. Basically, the structures, the governance piece is very simple. Every district gets one vote. So in this case, Mr. Vincent would serve or his designee if he's unable to attend the meeting to vote on any action or changes. Really, there hasn't been anything too controversial. We've just added programs each year. And that's one of the, I think you've got the added value one. I'll turn this over to Wendy in just a moment, but every year there's a strategy meeting that they do in January that we start talking about things that we can add as kind of things for enhancing programs and services. And these are things that aren't available to you currently as a small standalone. So, so the business manager, district superintendent, all in one, gets to serve on as the governance, and our Rockford team is in charge of servicing the group. So any questions, just on kind of that operational piece?
Yeah, go ahead and ask me a question. Well, I was just gonna say with the overall thing, now do you guys do it with being self-funded, a program like this, and do you guys do, like, you have like nurse case managers that come and with the self-funded program and kind of do physicals and checkups, and do you guys do like a tiered premium program where obviously it's like, you know, somebody in their 60s isn't paying the same as somebody in their 20s, you know, for the health insurance, because obviously somebody in their 20s,
that's local district control. I mean, we have districts that if you did take your health fitness or you do your biometric screening on site, you might get a deferred premium, but that's kind of up to the local district to decide if that's an incentivized program. We see a lot of that in language when we start looking at collective bargaining, some of those pieces that drive people into healthier behaviors. You have to be careful with some of that wellness stuff because the federal government, you can't entice too much, and you can't do some of these, there's restrictions on well-being, but you can do things with biometrics and have certain amount of incentivization there that makes people. As far as tiered premium by years of service, that type of thing, or average age is tough because of discrimination.
Yeah.
But if you get into tiers of coverage or years of service, we have districts that pay more toward premiums for different years of service and those kind of things. Or even they do the reverse. Newer teachers pay less. It's a kind of a unique reverse concept because they make less and that kind of thing. But these are all strategies that you can implement now with your fully insured program. But we see a lot more discussion when you start looking at self-funded and being your own money kind of being in the mix. It changes the dynamic of the conversation.
There's some previous employers, like, you know, it was based off your, basically you did a physical, you know, with the nurse case managers, obviously they did blood work, they did everything, you know, did blood pressure. And if you were, you know, it was incentive based, and if you were being the healthiest, you were in the top tier category where you paid less premium. So I think with this district, it may be beneficial because I feel like overall we're a fairly young district right now that I feel like our premium should be lower than, you know, what they were probably in the past.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we have Sycamore School District, one of our clients, they do a health fair every year and they do the biometric screening, and then they do a premium equivalent based upon how you, they do it based on if you took the physical. They don't go into because of HIPAA and looking at individual health conditions and that type, don't drill down that deep. But I think what you're saying conceptually, I think certainly are ways to incentivize people to take care of themselves proactively if they're not taking advantage of some of the programs we have. Yes, sir.
So how many lives do they cover right now in this, you know, cooperative?
I believe right now they have 2,000 members, and then we have about, I want to say 3,000 belly buttons, which would be dependents and others on the plan.
So would be kind of not that much added to the group at 86.
No, you're just one of the, I mean, you're not going to be a big influence. Our largest district is 140 lives, and we intentionally are staying around. Our smallest district, this game is Chadwick Milledgeville, they're at 57. Our largest is 142, I think. And we've got a number of 140s, one around 100. So, yeah, you would not be the largest nor the smallest in ours.
So what would the district actually be paying, because being self-insured, we're gonna have to fund so much of the self-insured portion to this point.
You're gonna
So what would
get-
our cost be?
You're gonna get this, that spreadsheet that you have, I don't know if you have that one, Tim, with the
Yep.
rates on it.
Yep.
We actually run it as a self-funded in the background, but it acts as though it's fully insured. It's called the premium equivalent that we develop. Yep. So if you look at that left-hand column on that spreadsheet, that's your current fully insured premium with Blue Cross at renewal. As you go across the screen there, then you're going to see on the far right is the ISC premium, and that's the premium equivalent that you pay. There's no dowry to buy into the co-op. Some districts make you come in with a certain nest egg or something. This is just our actuary people build that in. So right now, that's about 3.7% under what your Blue Cross renewal was coming in, and that's every cost there is. There's administrative fees, claim costs, all in are those premium equivalents you see on the far right side.
So the 1.3 million would be our cost, our premium cost.
That's, yeah.
At what point is it, for this committee, that's a stop loss period on claims?
On this particular, stop loss limit is 100,000.
100,000 per
Yeah,
person.
anything above that,
Claim or whatever.
yep. And so, and our underwriters have factored that in, sharing the risk among the entire district. So you don't have a true up at the end of the year that you have to pony up. The global renewal will take into consideration how the overall district performed and the co-op performed.
What's our current insurance cost this year? What was it?
It should be,
Everybody know?
it should be on that.
1.3 is our new rate.
The far right is your, it's the 1.274, that's your current,
I thought this is the renewal rate.
that's a room for your single standalone plan.
Yeah, our current rate.
And this side is what you do
For
for
you
the
guys.
co-op.
I wanted to know what our current cost was under our current plan now, not the renewal rate, but our cost was.
1,168,000.
So 1.1, there's almost 1.2.
And then the 5% is the 1 point. That second column is with the 5% added in.
We don't know what they paid out in claims last year.
Well, that's the nice thing. What we are going to get when you're self-funded is full transparency. You're going to see every dollar in, every dollar out. With Blue Cross, you get snippets. You get, I had 3 large claimants of X.
I mean, they know what the full cost is.
Of course they do. But they never let you know because they don't want you to know how much
But
they,
do we ever ask them?
well, do we ask all the
No,
time?
I mean, before did we ever ask?
Absolutely.
We were self-insured.
Well, yeah, I don't know what you,
Or when we were fully funded through them, we asked what they actually paid out claims.
we get a loss ratio anymore, Wendy?
We do,
Yes.
we do.
It just seems like a big boost for, like, you know, how much money they lost if they raised it up. I'm sure they did.
Well, they do a weighted average too. They go back your last 3 years and they weight the trend based on how recent the claim activity is. So the most recent claims get weighted the heaviest and then the third in the middle and I think you just had some large claims drop off. I think that's why we saw much better renewal last year.
But likely they're also factoring in what they project is gonna happen in the healthcare
Right.
budget with COVID. They talk about it, like at work, like our plan, they said, oh, just plan on an increase because everybody postponed surgery, so they know that.
Well, it's COVID, we call it the COVID effect. Everybody postpones surgeries, whether it's surgeries or dental or whatever. They're building in about 5 to 6% just for COVID related this year. So you're actually performing a little better than the average with the 5% standalone. And again, that plan is great and we can manage the heck out of that one for you as well. But if you are looking for maybe an option that maybe creates less volatility for the district over the long term, you certainly have that opportunity this year at looking at it.
The only one thing is, once you get into this, it's a little more expensive getting back.
Yes.
You have to, what ends up with a self-funded program, and I think, it sounds like you're an insurance person, so. or-
No, I dealt with it for
you-
years.
Yeah.
And, at least they don't have to carry a gun to rob people.
Well,
I mean,
I
I
used to be a
don't,
superintendent, so I'm used to that.
I used to deal with the sheriff for years, and they can talk their way around every one of the rate increases.
Oh, well, and we are the broker, we don't
So I'm not
separate.
blaming you.
Oh, no, I'm just a messenger.
I'm blaming you.
But you're right, the transparency piece, especially if you're smaller, you get very limited data. One thing you will get, and I can send some reporting packages, you'll see every dollar, from what fees and costs and those kind of things. So it's really kind of eye-opening, all the different pieces that are behind the scenes.
Well, it's good, yeah, I'm just saying that once we're in, it's not
Yeah.
like 3
Right.
years now, we can say, well, we're getting on going back.
Well, you can, but the problem is you have a tail. When you're self-funded, you're gonna have a 3-month tail of some claims that you're gonna pay out, which will kind of have to pay you into going back to fully insured.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is one of those situations on the exit.
Yeah, so I asked Mike and Wendy to come here and talk about just what does a co-op look like? What does it look like to be totally self-insured? And less about the rates for this year, because like John's saying, this is a long-term decision. This is not go in to take advantage of the premium reduction this year. That's not it's not worth it to look at it for the year. It's look at the overall benefits and drawbacks of it, and the crux of it is, on really good years where we have really low claims, are we philosophically comfortable paying more on those years? Where if we were on our own, we would see, even rate decreases kind of thing. If that insulates us against really high claim years, it's really kind of a philosophical decision.
I guess I was curious to see what do the rates look like for the co-op for the last, what have they done? Have they dropped? Have they kind of been consistent for the last few years?
Since 2016, what I can tell you is year one we had a number of fully insured groups who came in and had no credible data. So they kind of had to go, everybody who came in got a 5% reduction right out of the gate to get this started. Year two, because that probably wasn't as accurate in underwriting until what they call becoming fully credible after a year's time, they took a 10% hit the first year. So they were net 5% from where they were when they came in. Since that time, they've been at 5.2, 1.2, 3.2, there's another one in there, but they were all low single digits since that time. So districts, and one of the districts had 140% loss ratio for the first 3 years. So they would have been blowing up.
Right.
And they ended up some 8s, some 7, actually 6 when they deserved probably 15. So they were very excited about that. But it worked beautifully because we had some districts with 60% loss ratio on the other end. So usually when you get up to 2,000, and this growth is going to try and get to 3,000 or 4,000 max, we don't want 200,000 lives. You're going to see that kind of actuarial credibility over time. So I think that's what we look for, and we're really thrilled with the slow migration of groups coming in. And they're all, you see the sheet, they're all right around here, except El Paso wanted to come in for some reason. So he makes the trip because he likes the concept. He really believes in it, Brian. So he came up and likes to hang out with us during our quarterly meetings. Yeah. Sometimes he spends the night. I think it's just.
This year?
What they've been for the last few years?
I know the last two. Last year, I think was, help me out, Mike. I believe it's 12.8. 12.8 is what's in my head right now. So,
Increase last year, 1.8.
yeah.
Do you know what's been the last few kind of?
I can
I can
get that
certainly-
information.
I just like to see kind of compare where, if it was better
Let
off.
me get a 4 or 5 year history and.
Sure.
Go over to Mr. Vincent tomorrow.
Right. And, this is something should be considered, I should say, a long-term deal. So it's something that I would appreciate your thoughts on, and, whatever information you need, I'd be glad to put it in front of you and see what you guys think. So.
Really wide open. Just let us know what you're thinking. If you want us to provide whatever data set makes it easier to make a decision. And we've got some time. They take about 60 to 90 days for integration. So because we're within your window of renewal, you're probably going to have to renew with Blue Cross standalone for a month or so because you have to do the transition. And we don't rush in and try. If people want their cards and you don't want people at point of service without it needs to be organized flow. So if we're gonna look at an 8-1, which these rates are for 13 months, for an 8-1, we'd have to do something very quickly. If we wanted to do 9-1, we got a little time to kind of ruminate over this and kind of have this discussion. But certainly, if it's of interest, we certainly can talk to the, we've got board members or superintendents would be happy to share more information with you too of their experience.
With that comparison going back 5 years, and then also we compared you with your cooperative agreement for 5 years.
Yeah, we can put it,
Imagine that having that member here while we're there. So, you know,
yeah, we can certainly look at what the rate
as
increases.
As much as you can.
Sure.
I think that's a nice picture too. Myself and if you can remember.
But this year, we were looking at a 13% increase on our standalone one.
Last year was, this year is 5.
Well, if we're going from 1.16 up to 1.323, that's 13% increase.
The ISD numbers you're referring to are for a 13-month
Right, that's,
renewal, because there's a cooperative that actually renews on September 1st. So those rates are based on an 8/1/21
Okay,
through
so
9/1/22. And
Still-
the 1.169 is your 12-month from 7/1/20 to 6/30/21.
still going to be 5%. You just take a month off there. I'll just say, oh, that's not your guys' fault. I mean, the self-funded plan, they are good plans, there's enough bodies in there to spread the cost around.
sure,
We could do it with 86 lives ourselves.
Right.
There, in a cooperative like that,
sure.
and you can kind of police your costs a little better
Mhm.
than what you're currently paying now.
Right,
And we've kind of run out of time, I don't want to do that, but Wendy had, we can leave this behind, I think that's in your packet.
Yep.
There's a list that looks like this that has added value. These are the extra programs and services that you're able to access as part of the consortium. That's built into your premium equivalent. There's a number of added value pieces. So if you want a little more information, just take a look at those. They're really kind of very nice at the employee harmony levels and different things that would really enhance the experience working with your health program.
Mike, when do you guys want to talk about the timeline as far as our next board meeting is tentatively the 22nd of June. So we would be re-upping with Blue Cross. Is it indefinitely and we can opt out at any time? Is it?
Well, if we get past 9/1, what's going to end up happening is every month that you go farther down the pike, our underwriter's going to add trend. They're going to add a monthly trend piece, like 1% or 1.1 or something. So the sooner you go in, the more, quote, savings or a cost aversion, I'll call it, because it's not a reduction from your current, but it is a reduction from your renewal premium. So if you're looking at not making a decision until June, we'd be looking at trying to get you in for 9/1,
Right.
which would probably hit that rate by a point or two. That instead of negative 1.7, it might be negative 0.7 or something like that. So it'd be slightly under what the standalone renewal is. But if we get any later than June, then we're probably getting into maybe we're going to have to go back to full underwriting because he's going to want new data probably, because once that data's been sitting there for 3 or 4 months or 5 months, if things change, he's going to want to take a peek under the covers to see if any other claimants have jumped out of the bushes. But right now, those are locked and firm for 8/1, but that timeline is probably not going to mesh. But 9/1, I think we can still get it without taking too deep a dive and just looking at maybe adding a month's worth of trend down there.
But for the board agenda on June 22nd, we would sign on our own with Blue. We have to sign on our own with Blue Cross.
Correct. You need to
Right, that's what I'm-
redo as is, and that's just the BPA,
Right.
or just one form or whatever for you guys
Sure.
to sign for that. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, I just wanted to be sure. So that's coming no matter what. All right.
And if you make the determination that you want to move forward, just let us know because our transition team will want to get started on that as quickly as you can.
Sure. Any other thoughts from board members or anything like that? As it pertains to co-op? As it pertains to the co-op, any other just overall thoughts? I did check, I did call these, 4 of these superintendents to just to gauge, their overall thoughts. One had just got in last year. And the overall, process is, it's an assurance, that, over time, this sounds terrible to say, but over time, they're of the belief that something bad will happen, and they're looking for that insulation of the, a terrible year in which it spikes and you have to eat 20% premium for the year. So they're very comfortable paying a little extra on the good years, so it protects you against the really terrible ones. So that's the 30,000 foot view of it, and that's why they're in. That's why I'm intrigued by this option. I mean, 13% last year was not great. Well,
There's 2 ways.
there's a number of claims last year that resulted in a 13% increase. So it's,
One big one is your total dollars overall.
No, I'm just saying that there's 2 different ways to do catastrophic. One is multiple things you need to do.
right.
That's all.
And the thing we're seeing more and more, especially medications, the genetically engineered medications are just, you can have $100,000 drug. And God bless it, it's doing what it's supposed to do, it's helping people, but if a couple of those land on your plan, all of a sudden that
Right.
creates a real for district size.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for the time. It's
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, so it looks like we're up for one more presentation regarding ESSER federal allocations.
So this is going to be a quick one, because it's outdated. So I'll just show you exactly what we're, excuse me, sorry. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Wendy. All right, I'm just. All right, so, and we've talked about this again, so I'll hit it very briefly, but we've had the 3 phases of the stimulus money. The first has already been spent to open for this school year at $82,000. The second was just released in January 2021. That's something that is in process. It's in the queue right now in order to submit. That's for $323,000, and then the ESSER 3 isn't even open until July 1st, or that's the tentative date that they're giving, to be spent by 2024. Okay. ESSER 1, everything that I just mentioned, we purchased thermometers, we purchased disinfectant, sanitation supplies, some technology. So it was 130 laptops in order to expand our one-to-one to the 3rd grade. And then different apps and things like that. That was in ESSER 1. ESSER 2, what we're looking at right now was to expand one-to-one down to 2nd grade. Now, this is still going to happen. It's just the funding source is going to change, and it's going to free up the money that was previously allocated to that. And that includes both a student and a staff computer upgrade. All right. In addition to that, there's a device management it's a safety security measure. Anytime students are taking home district devices, district computers, it's important that the filter follows them, or the district filter, no matter what device they're on, will be able to follow them at home, just to make sure that we're ensuring that safety. So there's that, and then the other part of the device management feature is that you can pull data on the different apps that kids are using. You can pull the effectiveness or the usability of different things that we purchase, so that we can make kind of longer term decisions on things that maybe have a little less, that we're investing in, that have a little less use than others. So that's a part of it. And then again, we're looking at cleaning, disinfectant, and sanitation supplies. And again, with this federal money, what we're really trying to do is allocate. We've got this major project that has a lot of volatility in both labor and materials. So this is an opportunity to try to insulate ourselves against that and allocate what we can to this project. That's not adding money in itself onto this project, but it's adding insulation that would essentially flip and reverse some of that bond money that we got for this project and shift it down to a future project at GHS. So part of ESSER 2 is for that. In ESSER 3, we're looking at really two major things. One is updated curriculum and our literacy curriculum in kindergarten through 8th grade. We're going to put some of it towards summer school for all. That's the virtual summer school option that kids will have the ability to get on. And then 80% of that allocation is allowed to be used towards capital projects. It makes sense to allocate 80% of that to this. So I know I mentioned that last time, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody saw that. So that's what we're looking at right now. Again, with ESSER 2, a lot of that technology is going to be replaced by FCC funding, and that will free up some other things. But that's what we're looking at for the 3 stimulus packages. Any questions about that? There you go. All right. Thanks, Arlen.
All right. No questions are then we can just move on to our consent agenda. We can given all that ahead of time under that. So can we just have
Motion to approve consent agenda.
the motion by John and a second by Mike Highland. All those in favor say aye. Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Member Rosenfeld?
Yes.
Member Kylie?
Yes.
Member Blum?
Yes.
Member Frank?
Yes.
Member McIntyre?
Yes.
And Member Sun?
Yes. Okay, so next one is the acceptance of gifts and donations. On the agenda, we're looking to, there's a recommendation to accept the gift and donation from Hans Quarry Products and Vincent Earth Moving to put the drainage tile, rock, and labor to add drainage tile to the JHS football/soccer field.
So I know I never talked for gifts and donations. I did want to talk about that in terms of full transparency. Obviously, Vincent Earth Moving is my father. He would like to donate and work with Bobby Hahn to donate some of the rock that's associated with that project and get, wholesale drainage tile and piping and take care of the drainage issues that we have on our football field. He's asked to donate it to the district. So I just wanted to be, fully transparent with the board. Obviously, it is my father and with the public, but it is a donation. So I wanted to make sure that we put it in front of you guys.
Make a motion to accept the generous gift donation from Hans Quarry Products and Vincent Earth Moving for the drainage tile, rock, and labor. We had drainage tile to the Galena High School football and soccer field.
Motion by John and second.
I second that.
Second by Matt Blum. Do you want to roll call on this one, Patty?
Member Rosenfeld?
Yes.
Member Blum?
Yes.
Member Kylie?
Yes.
Member McIntyre?
Yes.
Member Frank?
Yes.
And Member Sun?
Yes.
And
Okay,
what will we be responsible for after that? The seeding, sodding, or whatever?
Well, it's not sodding, but it's seeding. We've got to grow the grass. So they'll seed it and, there'll be black dirt, but we've got to throw a sprinkler and make sure that the grass grows prior to the
Whatever
fall.
the sprinkler system.
Not a sprinkler system. No,
Water it after they see it.
right. We'll water it.
They get it going by football season.
Yeah.
Like you get up there and water it yourself. You're retired.
we're covered in the long run.
No, I'm just saying you're about it for sure. Short time. Don't hurt the Marshall North for getting that.
Nice donation though.
Not again.
That's very nice.
Very nice. Can't make it feel any worse.
Okay, so we can go ahead and move on to new business. First up is discussion of committee assignments. Again, we put this on kind of as a general discussion. We did reach out individually, but in order for us all to discuss, we put it on as an agenda item. I had sent out an email, I think, to everyone. I got feedback from most of you. Yeah, I know, that's okay. No, you chime in here, don't worry about it, John. So basically, we're just looking at, our current committees that we have. Right now, there are 6. Like we've talked about, we have to keep policy committee, we have to keep parent teacher advisory, behavioral interventions, we kind of lump them together. Negotiations, in buildings and grounds is pretty important just with all the current projects we have going on. And like we had talked, core planning that's already ongoing for K through 8 building. We basically deem that like a special committee, so that's not the building and ground committee that serves right now. So I just wanted to make note of that, but I'm open to more discussions. Some people have given feedback on where they want to serve, they want to make changes, so open to it, and if we want to have an open discussion about moving forward with committees, and then we'll plan on setting by next meeting.
I give this a lot of thought. Of all the things that, there's so many wonderful things about being on board, but one of the things that always irritated me the most was the way we go about doing committees in the past. Not even necessarily our but you go to a meeting and all of a sudden you, and I guess the point I'm bringing out is like, we've got this wonderful opportunity right now. We have youthful superintendent, youthful president. Makes me wonder, is there a better way for us to go about doing some of these things? Is there a better way to be more collaborative? Is there a better way to define what these committees should be? Is there a way to make sure that, to a certain extent, that people of talent are in the places where they can best bring their talent, and then all on the same side, if you have passion for something too, then maybe not your stuff there. It just seems, and then I think also everybody pulling their fair share, doing their fair share. And I did a lot of, me, I love researching, looking at stuff and everything. And I always wanted to know, are we doing the best practice that's available for this sort of thing? What's our goal for these committees? Are they just an emergency to come in and say yes or no, or do they have regular meeting time? Just bringing it up for discussion, is what do we want to do? I looked and it appears that we have more committees in most places. They're not good, bad, and different, I don't know. But I think the committees, to a certain extent, should be a little bit fluid in that at this point in time, those 6 committees, they're the way we've always had it. But I think each year the committee's needs might be different for that particular year. Might be different. Maybe there's a year where it's got to be a strategic planning committee. Maybe there's a year where it's got to be, a safety committee. Who knows? And just bringing it up as when we go to, when we look around, just, there's great ideas out there. Maybe we got the best idea, but I do think it's important that we do, like Arlie said in the email I got from her, and that said about the one team, and a collaborative effort to form committees so that they do the best. And I just think we got this really great term with the time, with the makeup of that, makeup of everything, to reestablish, a lot of things going forward, not just this. That's my 2 cents for it. And I really believe in collaboration. I really believe in group decision making. I really believe in everybody having some say. And to a certain extent, and I don't know how you do this, but sure would be nice to have a quick discussion when these things are coming up in public, not in individual meetings behind. I have problems with how many individual meetings we have about stuff, and then that information gets reported about our words somewhere else, and they said that wrong. But like, why should I have to have 5 meetings or 5 emails when we could, sit around here and go, well, I think I've got some help here, and then ultimately, surely it's your decision. But I make an assumption that John really wants to be on negotiations. That may or may not be true. I understand he's very talented at it. Okay, now that's another thing. But I hope I'm not making this sound like a negative. I'm just saying the open meeting, sharing of ideas about how things are going to be put together, and then maybe even having goals for it. I just want us to be the gold standard for going forward for how everything we do on this board is something, wow, they're right with the best practices now of doing that. And I just bring that up as a point for everybody to know.
The only thing with it, Mike, is like back a couple of years ago, this policy committee, we were meeting all the time, going through all the policies. We weren't changing anything.
No.
we were just reading them, and you can meet people to death. And a lot of people, I mean, I haven't got a check yet, but some people don't want to be up here all the time, and you have to pay for it. So you don't want to burn people out here. I mean, you have meetings, it's my opinion, that you need to have a meeting. You don't just have a meeting just to be having a meeting to get together.
Well, I agree.
That's my only concern.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't want to have a lot of meetings for just to get together.
Yeah, no, I think there's gotta be a purpose, and that's why I think you need goals and things for what that's gonna be and what the expectations are. And certainly, I think if you're on a committee that's going to be meeting more often than another, maybe that should be your only committee, rather than two.
I think with Arlie, I mean, it's kind of put together it's on that path that you talked about.
But we didn't all talk in a group about it.
Well, I understand, but I mean, we know what committee you want to be on, so it's like, she has you on.
You
the
know
committee.
what I wanna be on.
Yeah.
So the agenda item is discussion of committee assignments.
Yeah.
Like that's what this is. You don't have the discussion of, or, you know what I mean?
I'm just saying, we should all be alerted the next 12 months about like, is there a better way to do this? Do the committees reflect what we need to be done with the committees? That's all I'm saying, is that it's gotta be a fluid thing so that they're reflecting what we need to get done.
Yeah, and I'm hearing you, and I think what would be best, and like you can, this is just kind of an idea, like there is a function like assigned to them, we can, once you pick your committees or we assign them and that we're all set, then you could always come up with your own goals for each committee, because that's how I feel like, you play your strengths and then we can just, if you wanna reevaluate what it's doing,
No,
you can do that once it's set, but right now, I don't think we can go through each committee
I
and do
didn't
that.
expect that. I'm just saying
So we
that as
just
we
wanna-
go forward,
Yeah.
you can't really undo what the hard work you've done right now, but I'm just saying, maybe in the next year, you take a look and you say, is there better ways to do it?
Yeah.
And it's really fun but the other thing is, if you get on a committee that you're not really excited about, you still have to buy it, you have to do a great job on it. And that's one, regardless of what you end up with. But as far as fair share, I don't think anybody should have the right to not do their fair share of the assignment.
And I'm-
If somebody wants to do more, let them do more.
Sure, yeah, I get it. So the ones of you that I've heard from, I can kind of go from there, but we're open to talk here too. Like if you want to hear it from everyone, we can.
No, I'm just saying.
You're on policy committee and on negotiation. You were also on wellness, and it's one that,
That was when it was dumb to have me on.
okay, and one thing we're talking about is really focusing on.
That's a discussion, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, why don't you gotta smoke a cigarette, kid? Great guy to be on. Well,
Okay,
never
so,
did get
I'm
down.
fine with it, whatever you assign me.
and we have talked, and it's no secret here, like there's 4 that you have to keep, and I was talking with Matt, I'm like, yeah, I think you'd be great for this, but it really doesn't have a purpose and it's not meeting yet, but why not give it the opportunity and keep it? And if it doesn't go anywhere, we reevaluate in a couple of years. I'm just not one to let's just cross it off because it hasn't done anything. We can sure use it
But the
too.
only thing is like that wellness that Matt's on now, why isn't that tied into the health insurance? And, things that have to do with health insurance and stuff be tied into that wellness community. That's what it makes sense.
Yeah.
To look at what people like Matt was talking, different things you do to try to bring the rates down for health insurance, that should be with the wellness community. And then they'd have more of a purpose.
Yeah.
I just thought it was an oxymoron. So,
No, and I don't think we need to wait 2 years to evaluate if we're if who's ever on each of those committees,
Right.
you know what? It's time to move to something else, we accomplish all we can, time to go on, don't need to wait a year.
And we did put it on as an agenda item, we have a committee report, so if we want to alternate that and that you're going to be meeting, I'm kind of okay with that and we go from there. And if you feel like one's not really meeting and we've served its purpose, we can eliminate it in 2 years. But I say we keep the 6 we have instead of, really having a debate about eliminating one. So if you're cool with that, we'll just keep 6 of them that we've already have in place. And then, I'm open to hearing anything else if anybody wants to say anything about committees that, if anything's changed.
This is mainly for going forward, not for this.
Got it.
It's counterproductive to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Arlie, for being.
Yep, just, I am gonna share a piece of news because Matt Blum is a certified mediator. Did everyone know that? That's great news. So we have a certified mediator on our board, so it's likely gonna fly into some strength, so.
No, it's still certified.
Well, it looks like.
We'll
I
make
have the
sure, we'll make
experience.
sure we'll help you get through that, yeah.
It looks
Have
like your
experience
job
in it.
needs to spend a lot of time
I
together.
don't think you really have to be certified. Once you're doing that,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Right.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah. And Al, we did kind of talk with him too when we had new board training. We'll get a little bit, we gave him a lot of information that day, so I'll reach
Yeah.
back out to him too. And, you know, it's, he just had to leave for tonight, but we'll get things set up for next time. Okay, great. Let's keep things moving. I know there's other people that need to talk here. The discussion and recommendation to revise the board calendar. Everybody's kind of seen that, right? We're looking at, we're gonna move our meeting days to the third Monday, starting in July. We run into two little kind of issues, as Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a school holiday.
Right.
And Easter Monday, like there's no school, but right now we have board meetings scheduled, that's why they fall on the third Monday.
Sure.
So,
I just wanted to have that discussion on you know, if that, for example, you wanted to move because it's a, you know, over half of you guys are parents, so, you know, you have school age kids, is that something we're still allowed to still have on MLK Day, for example? We don't have to, but I wanted to alert as we approve the calendar moving forward with these tweaks that two of them, there is no school on that day. So if we wanted to move it, now could be the time to do it.
I say move those two holidays.
Yeah. I don't think so. If it works for everybody.
Right, with the schedule.
I didn't hear that.
they're talking about moving, like they'd like to revise it already, like let's move it
That's
off.
fine, that's what I need to do.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So
I mean, I don't have any other schedules at this point, so. I mean, if you want to move it, that's fine, but we don't have any other schedules at this point.
Overlooking ahead, like what day would work better if we set a
Yeah.
date. The other thing would be like if we thought we were gonna have student recognitions, like do we think that would be an issue getting kids here on a day that they're already out of school? Like that's kind of what I was thinking, like, you know, it's my favorite part of the meeting, so we don't wanna have student recognition.
likely
but,
would.
We're not coming, we don't have school.
Right.
No
But-
school, no meeting. Pretty simple.
So what, do you want to move that Monday, January 17th back a week, or do you want to move it to like the Tuesday?
Just go over to that Tuesday, keep it in the same thing, that makes sense.
Does that conflict
The
with
third
that?
Tuesday is kind of what we were trying to avoid with your art and rec, the center for the art and sport. In the township, wasn't, that's kind of.
Well,
So let's just move it back a week then.
Then we
We
come
do
to the
that?
problem.
What?
The problem has always been on that, whether they can get the bills ready.
right,
You know,
Patty, I'd defer.
The end of the first week, we have to get everything balanced out, so it's very hard.
So you have to move it, not move it back to the following Monday.
So towards Monday, is that too far?
No, it's late for the bills to get out. We can probably pay the usual customary if we needed to. That's fine.
I don't think we ever shot down the bill yet, so.
Right, but we can't send them out until after the board meeting. So some of those are sitting in the hopper. They have, you know,
managed that problem at one time with a vendor.
That third week is really.
I mean, you're only looking at maybe a couple of days during the year that somebody may miss. You'd still have a quorum,
Yeah.
you'd still have a meeting. I mean, it could be like, in winter time, if I do the same job I did last year, it's snowing, I'm gonna miss. So it's just,
John, are you saying move it back a week or a day
just move it to the next day, to the Tuesday.
to the Tuesday?
So it doesn't screw up your payroll and your bookkeeping, you get bills paid,
Okay,
and there's always gonna be some meeting that somebody may miss. So there's no perfect schedule, other than make it easy for, make it many as they can.
I do like that we're taking care of the person who's making out all the bills and stuff too. I think it's a polite, professional thing to do. So there's gonna be new care of.
Just easier to keep it in the same.
Do we like, I mean, if Tuesday's the issue, we could bump it to Wednesday, like does that maybe
Well,
fix
then
some
you-
conflicts?
Then you may miss me because I have zoning boards. and-
Okay. I know.
Which is fine, if I miss a meeting, I miss a meeting.
Okay,
So what day?
Simple.
so we would be looking at moving Easter Monday and Martin Luther King Jr. Day, instead of having Mondays going the following day to Tuesday.
Or
So
what-
it'd be Tuesday, January 18th
Thank you.
instead of Monday, then also Tuesday, April 19th would be a meeting.
Thank you.
My wife's gonna enjoy Valentine's Day.
I'll make a motion to move those meetings that fall on a day that school is not in session to the next day on Tuesday,
We're gonna change our board meeting calendars to the third
to reflect, to the third,
Monday instead of Tuesday.
Beginning July.
yeah, that's perfect motion. There you go, Patty.
Got it.
You can never retire.
Okay, so we'll take that motion by John and then second. Second by Mike. Oh, voice vote is great. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. All right, quick discussion. We're looking to approve the bidding of concrete work in front of the Galena High School as presented. Tim, do you want to touch base on that? We kind of have it all.
So just to be clear, this is getting permission to get bids. This is not locking us into anything. This is more of an informational thing to the board that, concrete is heaving. To me, it's a liability issue in front of the high school. We have, elderly people that go to basketball games and whatnot. I'm just seeking permission to go get bids for the concrete work and the sidewalk in front of the high school.
I'll make a motion to approve, to put out bids for concrete work in front of the high school as presented by the superintendent.
Motion by John, second by
Second.
Brian McIntyre. For bids, we can just do the voice vote then.
I think you have to do
You do a roll call.
We better do a roll call for that.
Roll call then.
Member Rosenthal.
Yes.
Member McIntyre.
Yes.
Member Sutton.
Yes.
Member Frank.
Yes.
Member Hyman.
Yes.
Member Moore.
Yes.
Thanks for getting those. I know the custodian's been asking that for years and years and years and years, and I think this is working too.
I mean, I would ballpark it at, I don't know if it'll be between 20 and 30,000, but if somebody falls and gets injured, it's going to cost us more than that, and it's going to be, it probably should have been taken care of, to be honest.
Our own custodians doing that.
No, no.
They used to do it all.
Yes, reason to
No, so we get formal bids for that.
That's fine.
Yep.
That's a big area though.
Yeah,
That's probably
that's a
outside of their comfort zone.
Okay, all right, now we're on to discussing in the changing to the Latin honor system. Are we gonna review?
So just let me give a brief deal on this, okay? I just wanted to kind of circle back. I've reflected on, where this came from. And I think it's important for the board to understand because I think it's morphed into more than it was, okay? Number one, we're not following our own board policy, and that's an issue, okay? We have it in our board policy that any 7th and 8th grade student who takes classes at the high school is awarded credit, okay? We don't do that right now. We don't do that. And we purposely don't do that because if we gave them credit, it would dilute their GPA, right? It's not like they're easy. They're certainly hard classes, but those are clearly very high achieving students. And we talked about the denominator. This is essentially a math and an average problem. So if we gave those kids credit, we would de facto, we'd be taking them out of the running to be valedictorian, salutatorian. All right? Does that make sense? So it's not just the statistical minute difference between the top 10. It's that because of the math problem, the fact that they have more classes, it brings their GPA down. It brings their GPA down. So we purposely don't give them credit. This all started because we need to arrange our board policy so that it matches our practice. That's all. Right now, it doesn't. So that's why this idea of the Latin honor system came into play, is because it's a way to recognize students that doesn't bring down kids who have taken more classes. So if you have more 4-scale classes, it actually brings you down. So that's where this all came from. It's basically a math problem. So I've heard people talk about the sports analogy where track is separate. People who run a 100 yard or 100 meter dash, they still award first and second because even though it's a razor thin margin. That is true. But a similar analogy would be, someone in a scheduled season who takes less classes or who plays less games or takes less classes can actually raise their GPA. Okay, so it's a function of the average, the math average that kids are moved around on the top 10 list based on, and people are essentially rewarded for taking less classes. Mathematically, they're rewarded for taking less classes, and they raise up because of the way that the average works. That's the problem, in my opinion, with the traditional class rank system. It's not people giving speeches. It's not the top 10 list. It's just that with all things being equal, if you take full course loads and full classes, and your GPA will go down for those top very high achieving students. Your GPA will go down. So to me, that's a systemic problem with the class rank system. Now, I do understand that it's steeped in Galena history and small school history that there has been a valedictorian, there has been a salutatorian. So I just bring it back to the overall, this came from me recognizing that we don't practice what our board policy says. So something's got to give there. We either keep the same class rank system, knowing that it's set up, in that way that I just described, and keep valedictorian, salutatorian. That's fine. But then we just need to adjust our credit and say that we're not giving credit to the 7th and 8th graders that take classes with the high school. So it's really like, I don't, to me, I think it's grown into, an emotional issue and all that. It really just came from, me noticing that we don't give 7th and 8th graders credit and asking why. So something's got to give in front of the board. If we want to, if you guys want to keep the class rank system, if you want to keep valedictorian, salutatorian, that's totally fine. That's really totally fine. But know how the system works and know what it does. And we'll have to just go and change policy and say that we're not giving those kids credit. Does that all make sense? So I don't want to.
Sense, and I haven't heard anybody complain about the actual system you want to go to, the Latin system. I haven't heard one person complain about it. The only complaint I had was when it comes to giving a speech, and you call them whatever you want to call them, I could care less. Made up name anyway. The top 2 people in that class, whether it's by 1/100th of a point or a full point, should be the ones to talk. That's my only thing. Call them what you want. They don't have to be the valedictorian or the salutatorian. And me and Mac had a discussion earlier, and he said he wasn't going to die on the hill for this one, but I'll guarantee you I'll die on the hill for it. Because I don't think it should just be picked who gets to do it. And it doesn't matter what they're called.
And I didn't want to steal, I know Mrs. Murphy was going to talk about it has changed. The recommendation has changed as far as the speakers moving forward. So
I read that too.
Okay.
So then you're talking about more speakers. Okay. And I just let the top 2, it's not that hard to figure out. You're the top, me and Mike are the top 2 guys in our class. You get to speak. Period. That's over with. I like the Latin system so you honor more people. That was the purpose of this. And to get in line with what our policy should be. So that's my position.
So, okay. So in that case, then we would go back and change the policy to not give those kids credit for classes they're taking at the high school. So that's what it would.
You could go to the Latin system that you were talking about. So we're honoring more kids and we get in line with the policy that you just got done explaining. Because right now we're in violation of the policy.
Correct.
Right?
We are.
By going to the Latin system, we wouldn't be, would we?
We wouldn't be. We just have to be. And I'm comfortable with what the board's comfortable with. What you have to be comfortable in saying is that sometimes you would have a valedictorian. Sometimes you would have a valedictorian and a salutatorian who have taken less courses, fewer courses, okay, than the next one in line or the third one in line or the fourth one in line. In this way, the math problem works out so that it dilutes your GPA. It's just math. It dilutes your GPA. That's my issue with it. That's it. I want, I'd like to have it both ways too, but it really won't work that way. So if you're comfortable saying that for years to come, if there's a way to do this. If you want to be valedictorian, make sure that you take as few classes as you can, the majority of them being honors classes, and you will earn that honor. Do you see what I'm saying with that?
Because if you're getting punished, if you're a seventh grader right now, you want to be valedictorian, and right now we should be giving credit to like a seventh grader, eighth grader coming up to high school. By them, us we should have been following the correct policy. They should be getting credit, but in the same time, they would be making it tougher for them to be valedictorian.
So changing to the Latin system, what's that do?
It would be tougher for that kid to become valedictorian. That's the kid that's taking.
Without changing the policy.
Without changing the policy.
Because we'd be following the policy, right?
Yep, we'd be following it.
So currently, the valedictorian system that we have now is the same thing. We just followed it. The only thing is we're not honoring as many students at the end of the year.
But you would take out the kids, the high achieving kids who go from here to take math courses at the high school. Those kids would in all likelihood be ineligible for valedictorian and salutatorian.
But they would be under this Latin system too.
They would be recognized in the top
They'd be
tier of the.
recognized, but they wouldn't be the top person in their class.
So they wouldn't
Correct.
be speaking.
Okay, so nothing changes other than we're hung up on valedictorian and salutatorian.
But you brought that up about you want them to be the speakers.
I
They
say the
would be
top
able to
two
do,
students in the class should give the speech.
but their GPA would be the top two.
You give the top two people the best GPA would give the speech.
But they're saying if they take the classes here and they get the high school credit, they essentially already, like, let's say they started seventh grade. They have 2 more math classes going into high school than what everybody else does that just took classes from freshman to senior year. So you've given them 2 classes, so their GPA is already more diluted. That's the issue. What we have, they've done, the practice is better that if they are here and they're taking math up there, they're just getting a math grade. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but then they still take 3 years of math as a requirement at the high school. And our board policy could also address that and change it as well.
They run out of math to take, is what you're
So
saying.
you have to change the board policy.
Math itself has nothing to do with it. Just the
Well-
honors courses.
Can I say something? I've been trying for about 5 minutes here. Put my hand up and everything. I interrupted, but- Oh, it wasn't. But anyhow, here's the problem about all these things. Unless you're taking the same 25 classes, save 25 classes, all right? That's the only way you can have a true evaluation of that. However, those 25 classes, and I remember when we had this, and I don't know, Beth, if you were here or not, but remember we had a person with predominantly trades type classes became valedictorian. And that raised all sorts of ruckus in the school. And I didn't understand why. But the fact of the matter is that it's inherently unfair. There are some of our great students, if they were in that shop class, might lose 2 fingers and get a B or a C. And there's some of those great people in the trades might not do so well. So we can talk about it so many different ways, but the issue is if we didn't have weighted grades, it's no problem.
That's the only other way to address this
Yeah,
is to
if we didn't have weighted
not
grades.
have weighted grades. You're right.
Again, I see both ways.
Right.
I mean, I'm hoping that they recognize the other 34 kids at graduation this year if it were of that. But
Right.
it's impossible. We could go round and round with all the different ways to look at it, whether maybe 2 more classes,
Right.
2
And
or the same grades.
Yeah.
It's who's to say a certain class, in my opinion, is for certain people, it's not really weighted. They're very talented, but there's other classes that somebody's talented in isn't weighted. So I haven't decided how to vote, but I'm leaning towards
Well,
the Latin system
yeah.
and stuff, but stuff.
Speak, please. First of all, Stephanie, I want to thank you for speaking. I spent a majority of my weekend with families and their children and had lengthy conversations about this topic. I have asked for additional data. I understand the dilution. I understand that. I know plenty of people who were bumped out of top 10 to number 11 because someone had what someone would consider, easier classes, not weighted classes. The fact of the matter is it's a system and you can choose to play it. You can choose not to. You can choose to take what you want. The fact of the matter is it's their choice. And whether it comes down to 0.1% or 0.5%, that let our students work for that, in my opinion. But I've asked for data that wasn't going to be available, and I only asked yesterday. You know, we can argue opinions all the time, but what I want to know is over the past, let's say 10 to 20 years, you look at the 5 to 10 years, look at the top 20 students, class load, and GPA, and where they fell in the class rank. I would imagine in general that what happens is what we're talking about is the exception, not the norm. I think you would consistently see that your number one and number two that started their freshman year with the classes to do that. My guess would be generally that's how it would come out. So I don't want to upend something, but I would like that data to confirm that. I also, I think with the 7th and 8th grade, I think we just changed that policy. We're not doing it anyways. I also would like to see maybe, I don't want us to recognize additional students. I think that's great. But what this feels like is recognizing additional students and then taking away from others. And I don't want to recognize more and feel like it's taking away from others. So I'm trying to understand how we can have Latin and have valedictorian and salutatorian and some sort of hybrid. This isn't based on small school or something that we're used to. The fact of the matter is there's a lot of systems out there anywhere you go that you can play or you cannot play. That's your choice. This isn't anything new in regards to weighted classes and the amount of classes you take. It's math. So you sit down and decide which way you're going to play. That's a choice that somebody has to make. But the changes that we had talked about, I also asked for data because they said, well, anyone over 4.0 would be invited to speak at graduation. The other data I want is, on average, how many students are there above 4.0? I imagine there's anywhere from 5 to 15. So I can't imagine that we're going to allow 15 students to speak, and then how do you break that down? So I just think there's a better way. I don't want to vote on this tonight, as it is. I don't think it's fair, and I think competition is good, and it's a system. Anybody can play a system. That's it.
No, yeah, that's what I was gonna say is I can bring, anything you'd like, but I mean, it's what, if the board is comfortable with the current system and, then that's what we'll move forward with. And, we can, we purposely put it as a discussion and possible vote. I wouldn't recommend, voting on this tonight. If you've got other questions, I will at some point bring it to a vote. I think that's the smart thing to do because, as you said, it's inherently unfair. It is, and
I agree with what Nikki said. I mean, I like the competition idea of it, but obviously, and I said tonight, I told John, it's like I was supporting Miss Murphy's, supporting what to do. I'm up in the air on it. I think almost the best way to describe it, thinking about it, like trying to explain it better,
right.
is like the way to almost look at it is like in baseball, it's easier to hit 500 or 400 in 20 games versus 25 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the best way to kind of look at it, like think about it that way. And it is a flawed system. Like you said, it's not perfect, but
right.
I've been back and forth on it as well. I mean, ultimately, I just ask myself the question, what's best for the greater amount of students? And I think, and I know it's not that simple, and I'm all about competition, but I think for the greater good of the entire student body, it's better for more students. And I don't think that's a bad thing, moving to the honors or the system.
Some years it's a lot, some years it's not many.
And I'm with Matt, even if it's one kid, I mean, that makes a difference, someone that's worked their whole high school career and what my course load is gonna look different than someone that really wanted, I didn't like art, so I avoided it at all costs, but someone that we want to encourage those people that want to pursue that. to take the art course versus taking like a, a weighted course. And I get that they can get college credit. God, what they can do here is remarkable. But man, if we could get kids to pursue more of their passion here in the high school level, they'll get it before they go to college, and it will only help them in the long run. And
It's ultimately a more rounded, better education.
yes, and this year's class was 50. There are classes with 75. So then we just picked 10, and I'm not so sure that that there's not a better system out there.
The kids are gonna be fine when you just tell them the truth. This is what our system is moving forward. They will adjust to it. The one thing is that not one size fits all, because maybe there's advantage to getting that college credit person, like you said, but maybe that person's passion and where they're going in their life is that art course or that other one that isn't weighted. And it's that's the key. It's like, the problem that the counselors have and everything is like fighting to take something because there's going to be a reward of this college credit or anything, or it's going with what's really going to help you. How many of these kids should be taking plumbing? Who are brilliant students anyway. Nothing says that you can't have a brilliant person. It's so many different facets of it. So,
But I think for those students that come in freshman year and have ranked number 1 that's on there. It's number 1 out of 62. They're college bound. That's what they want to do. I don't want to discredit those students from wanting to achieve to be number 1 or number 2 or number 3. I think that's really important because they're
neither do I.
fantastic kids, just as someone trying their hardest their whole career to get above a 3.5 or a 3.0, which is still above average. But I just don't I want to recognize everybody above a 3.5, but I don't understand why we have to take away from that 1 and 2. Why do I feel like that's taking away.
My point is, when you tell them the truth, this is what might happen if you decide to follow your passion and go this is what might happen. And you're not discouraging them, you're allowing them to make their decision the direction they're going.
But I mean, just going to your point and that's great. The kids, they should do that. But the problem now with the system is that these kids are obviously intelligent, probably, and they should be pushed in the system we're in right now. By pushing them, they would be taking in 7th, 8th grade, possibly high school math, and essentially they're not going to do it. If they're going to play the game, they don't do it.
I know. So
And
I want to
sitting
change that
there-
part of the policy
Yeah.
where we're not giving credit for that. They're not mutually exclusive as far as I'm aware. Why does it have to be all or nothing? I mean, nobody even records whether we do Latin or top 10 in the state of Illinois. Why is it all inclusive?
It is mutually exclusive in that if you give 7th and 8th graders credit, they are not eligible for top 10. Or they're not eligible for valedictorian.
But we don't give them credit now. We don't follow our own policy.
Right.
So why
right.
can't we write our own policy? Because we're not following our own policy.
No, we can change the policy but to be clear, if we keep even the top 2, we cannot, in good conscience, because it's, in my opinion, a flawed system, because of everything we just talked about, we cannot give those kids credit. Like, we have to tell those kids who are taking class next to each other down there that they cannot get credit.
But they're not getting credit now.
Right.
So
right.
we've already told,
We gotta fix
Yeah.
our policy.
right.
So if we change our policy, and I'm misunderstanding, if we change our policy, we can still go to the Latin system to honor more students at the end of their school career for doing well. And we can take the top 2 people and not give it a name, but just say, you're the top 2 people in this class, give a speech.
So are they able to check in through their 4 years of what spot they're in? Is there still a rank?
Well, I think they should be.
There's not? See, there's not a rank.
No, there, in the Latin honors, there isn't a rank.
Well, they don't know
That's-
what their grade point
that's
average would be now?
Well, they know their grade point average, and if they want to talk with one another, that's their business.
There's no
But
class
there is
rank.
no rank that will not show on the report card. That will be taken off the
Yeah.
report card.
Right.
So
But
that's
you know
their,
what, I
that's
don't have a
their
problem with that either, because their own personal goal is to say, I'd like to be a 4.3 or whatever, or be above 4.40. That's their goal. And I think if a kid is motivated and wants to do the best, they're not gonna play the game to take the easiest classes just to raise their grade point average. They don't have that mentality.
I agree. I think
So,
that's the
At the end of
exception.
the day, you honor as many kids as you can because they've done, like this class that's graduating now, sounds like there's a lot of smart kids. So you honor as many as you can, but the school knows who the top 2 people were in that class.
The school. That
Correct.
student doesn't.
Doesn't matter, but the school does, so they walk up to you and say, Nikki, you're the number 2 person in your class. You're gonna give a speech. And Matt's number 1, he's gonna give a speech.
And
It
how
doesn't
do
matter
you,
what they call them,
and how do you keep them competitive if they have no idea?
because they drive themselves.
For 4 years.
They drive
Competition
themselves.
drives people though.
You know what, and if I don't know how good you're doing,
So-
I'm gonna push that much harder to make sure I get ahead of you.
You're confusing the words.
It's not, yeah,
You're confusing words, folks. You're confusing competition and being competitive with winning. Okay? Competition is you personally doing the best you can and setting your goals and worrying there. Winning is trying to get to that other thing. They aren't mutually the same thing. They're just, competitive is pushing yourself to be the best you can be, regardless of what that outcome may be. And I trust me, those kids will adjust to whatever system you have. They will not quit trying to excel. They won't quit trying to reach their personal goals. Maybe they'll quit playing the game so much. And again, it's about them reaching their individual goal of a certain GPA, not a rank, and they will adjust to that in a certain amount of time.
I agree.
Yeah,
I wish that the 2 number 1 students I sat with this weekend could sit and listen to you say that. Because it's tough. These kids were devastated. It's easy to say the kids will adjust.
Okay, I'm going to change one of my rules I said I was gonna have. I've done that several years of talking to kids on losing goals, losing things, being there, So, yeah, I know what that conversation's like. I've lived it. I even told you about it a few years ago. But they're fine. They do fine. There's bad decisions, there's bad things that happen when you're good people. But if you're still trying the very best you can, as a parent, say, hey, hell of a job, tough break, what are you gonna do now moving forward? That's the way I look at it.
And we're gonna be able to have more kids have recognition on their resumes for college. More kids like magna cum laude, summa cum laude, on that, we have more kids recognized and have better resumes.
I talked to a college admissions director, and he said that does pull a lot of weight, having more people recognize on that interest in that. I wanted to ask this, have we ever had a valedictorian who came down and took 8th grade class, math in 8th grade? High school classes? So you tell me, I guess I'm just kind of curious. Every person who's come down and taken math at the high school from 8th grade, they never made it as a valedictorian?
Stephanie did right behind you.
but because she didn't get credit.
But you didn't get credit. That's the whole
So
book.
change that. So change
The
that.
first thing we have to do is change our.
If we
policy.
gave her credit, she wouldn't have been valid.
I know that.
Okay.
So just a little
Regardless of what
credit.
else we do, you still need to change the policy.
I agree, and
Policy has to be changed.
right, I mean, I met with several parents earlier this year, and part of why I'm putting this in there is because many of the parents parents are asking me, why is my kid rubbing elbows with high school students and not receiving that credit? Okay, and I think it's a very fair question that doesn't have a real good answer other than this issue. So this has become an emotional issue that I wanted to avoid. I don't think that it needs to be. We have there's no deadline on this. I don't want to see something like this come down to a split vote in any way. I don't think that does us or the community any good. I think at this point, I'm gonna talk to the policy committee once that gets established, and we can take a look at the policy. I don't think that this, let's go back to where this started, and I'm gonna make sure policy matches practice. That's my job, is to put in front of you. This time it got emotional. It doesn't need to, but I will go to the policy committee, and and see if we can go from there. I
Still
would,
like that data I requested.
I will get it to you. It was yesterday afternoon.
Oh, no, I
I
know.
know.
I'm saying in the next
Okay.
month, 2 months, whatever.
So we can hash this over or whatnot. I can tell you that based on the survey data, based on other conversations, there is another cohort. There's another majority cohort out there that is advocating for this system because they've been on the other side of it, because they have, taken more classes or followed their passion and compromised being recognized because of it. And that's the system that we have in place right now. So that's right now. I'll go to the policy subcommittee. We can talk about it, and either way, you'll see that. But I don't think it's worth bringing to the board for a split vote on something that we have years and years and years to discuss and get right. So
I think once you fix the policy itself, Jim, the other part of it will fall together. Because you're talking two different things right now. You're talking the policy is flawed because you didn't follow it.
the easiest, you're right, and the easiest for me would have been to fix the policy and not bring our system that plays, that you can play and compromise. It puts some students in a very difficult position of when they get down the line of following something they're passionate about and taking, we're putting some kids in a compromising position, and that we have to live with, which is fine. I just want to bring that to you guys' attention.
We're trying to fix two things at one time. Fix the major problem, and then the other one, I think, would be a lot easier to fix.
Right.
Okay, so I think at this point, we've exhausted all comments and we will just go ahead and take.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sal, all the time.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, if anything else, it's enlightening, right?
Yeah.
So
we've just
I can,
gotten to this.
I have seen, the National Association of Secondary School Principals has ballparked this at half schools recognized using the Latin system, half still use class rank, and there's a growing number that it's shifting to the Latin side. Maybe what we need is time. Maybe we need to continue looking at it, but it is kind of split in the way we've done things versus the way things are trending. So that data is out there. We can continue looking at it or discussing it. We can fix the policy and move on. That's something that we can do. It just, I think, being the board and realizing how the current class rank system works is a win. So, thanks, Arlen.
Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and table that one. We're not gonna move forward with any sort of motion. So let's move on to, discussing and recommending to approve adding an additional 3-school program. Are you presenting on that?
I am, yep. So we have 17 students. We screen for pre-K students in the district. We annually have a full class or somewhere near a full class on our waiting list. The reason, in my opinion, we haven't offered it before is because we haven't had space in the middle school where our pre-K is. Some of the kids who have needed some of the special education support here have moved to the high school, and that staff member is going with them, which obviously creates the ability for an open classroom and to be able to offer pre-K. Okay, so we can offer a third section of that, and we have 17 kids right now who are on the waiting list for pre-K. So that's something that the reimbursement for that we would not be eligible for next year. So this would be out of district funds. This would be adding a 0.5 teacher and around a 0.5 paraprofessional. Just so you know, the paraprofessionals and non-certified, you got to look at the whole. You got to finish the rest of the IEPs and look at the entire district as far as the needs before you land on it. But so it's hard to silo. Like pre-K will take 0.5 para, but for the sake of this discussion, out of district funds, I'm suggesting that we add a 0.5 pre-K teacher, and we offer that here as a third section in the afternoon for next school year, as well as likely a 0.5 para addition to the district. In spring of next school year, we can apply. It's in a 5-year rolling window. we can apply for reimbursement for that. That would pay for the majority of the program, but next year would be out of district funds. I feel like with 17 kids on the waiting list and early intervention being as important as it is, I think we serve those kids through our pre-K. Kelly Kent and Heidi O'Shea are here to, you guys are the pre-K experts, so I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say.
Heidi, we always save you for the last. That's the last. We just literally make her say
Right.
these whole meetings. That's why she's already
One of the things, one of our concerns when we brought this to him was that we didn't screen as many this year as we typically do because of COVID and outreach and all of that. I mean, we tried really hard. So our concern is that not only are there sending kids on, but there are more kids out there. We always get some kids moving in, and we've talked about it, for years. And we probably serve less, if you look at overall than other districts around us, percentage wise. So I think early intervention is so important, so.
I see the need here. I think you're fitting it, and I'm happy to support this.
In a typical year, we screen anywhere between 45 and 60 kids. This year we screened 34. And having 17 on the wait list is low for what we screen.
We'll fill it with appropriate kids.
Right.
All the research says that when we can get our kids in the preschool stuff, that they're out there, I think it's a no-brainer.
I agree.
Nothing else, I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve adding an additional preschool program for the 21-22 school year as presented.
Motion by John,
Second that.
second by Matt Blum. Do a roll call.
Yep.
Yes.
Member Blunt.
Yes.
Member Frank.
Yes.
Member Highland.
Yes.
Member McIntyre.
Yes.
Member Sykes.
Yes. Okay, next item, closing comments from board members. I'll leave the floor open here for a couple minutes. If anybody has any closing comments, but I think we've had a great discussion here. We've addressed a lot of issues. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add?
No, I got a motion to adjourn the meeting.
The next item. So motion by John, second by Mr. Highland, Patty, and a voice vote for all those in favor to adjourn the meeting.
Aye.
All those opposed with the same sign. Meeting is adjourned.